Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. He Sewell with a first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful. Fields looking, pressured, hit from behind, taken down. Aiden Hutchinson got him.
No respect.
So, we look like we're ready. This is day one.
No respect.
Well, hello, good evening. It is Will Rock with Rocked On Detroit Lions and Off the Cuff podcast. It is Friday night, and we're going to be talking about the NFL draft tonight and some information that I think could be valuable to some of you. But I've got a public service announcement first, and that is something is going on with YouTube. Nobody is getting notifications. I have put out videos and, of course, scheduled live feeds, and I wasn't getting my own notifications. Nobody in my house was getting my notifications. So I decided to check all of my subscriptions on YouTube, and every single one of them said personalized, where I know for a fact I have certain people or certain groups or channels that I follow selected to all. So do yourself a favor, check your subscription settings. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that now, or at least consider it. But also check the notification bell, because the notifications are what was set to personalize. So I wasn't getting anybody's. And this has been going on for a couple of weeks. And matter of fact, someone that, Sports Spider brought it up to me yesterday that they've noticed it too. So it's just a public service announcement. Check it. Make sure that, all the updates with YouTube didn't screw up your settings, because I'm sure there's a lot of other people you guys listen to as well. And you don't want to miss good quality content from your favorite content providers. So good evening to everybody. Hello, Lone Wolf and Tracy. Nice to see you guys tonight. I added the Facebook group to this live stream tonight. So it's going to be tough for me to see how many people are in. I don't know why they do this to me. I don't know why they do it to Facebook. I guess not just me. So I really have no clue how many people are watching this stream tonight, which will be interesting. So Brett Hackenberg, welcome to Rocked On Detroit Lions tonight. TaylorMade Media, I see you are in, and I've got the chat popped out quickly so that we can make sure we got everybody in tonight. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to pull in the PFF simulator and do some simulations with you guys. But first, what I wanted to show you is a draft that I literally just did while I was waiting to go live tonight. So let me show you this. Now, I usually will. Sorry about that. Let me show you this. I usually do a few of these every year, and then I'll post them. This is not one that I'm going to post, but I'm just going to show it because it was interesting. I didn't do any trades. I didn't do anything funny. I just kind of let it be. And if we were to pull this draft, now I know what you're going to say, Will, there's no corner. But if we were to pull this back-to-back Texas boys, Dominic Pooney, who, by the way, plays left guard. I think it's left guard and left tackle. Cooper Beebe. You guys know I like Theo Johnson, and to get him at 163 would be a steal. A center, Dylan McMahon. He's not my highest center. I do like Lemur. Kind of like him the most right now for a center. Then we got to get a kicker. But if we were to pull this kind of a draft this year, I would not be mad. 2 defensive linemen, 3 offensive linemen, and a kicker and a tight end. B+. Love it. And I don't think that the kicker should be a C+. I just don't have a later round draft. So anyway, I thought that was interesting that it kind of did that on its own. I didn't have to do anything. And that's been changing. But here's the big news. This is what I've noticed about this draft this year. I thought that I was feeling pretty confident that we were going to have some options, given the fact that the Lions have 4 picks in the top 100, 29, 61, 73, and 92. That's pretty darn good. The last couple of seasons, we've had like 5 in the first, 100, or even 5 in the top 80, which is excellent. But what I'm noticing is if we don't get a defensive edge or a defensive lineman or a cornerback, like inside the top 60 picks, really inside the top 50, forget about it. Because there's not much that I see that exists for a game changer this year. Peter Charles Braley says, I missed the live video about Lamb and Gibbs. I want to comment on that. Is it me or is everybody else sick of the Dallas Cowgirls? Yeah, we are. We are all sick of the Dallas Cowgirls. Yeah, here we go. Here they go. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see what Brad Holmes does, because if he doesn't jump up into the top 20 of this draft, maybe the top 15, honestly, it's going to be tough to get a real game-changing defensive end or defensive tackle or cornerback. There's just not much happening after the first round. Last year, we had a really deep draft with defensive linemen and defensive ends and corners. This year, I think it's pretty slim pickings. I mean, when you're seeing defensive ends that are like 6'5", 222 pounds, 240 pounds, I mean, these are bean poles. I mean, that's barely a linebacker. It's like a giant safety. I just don't see how that's going to benefit the Lions. So here's what I'm thinking. We've been talking about the Lions buying in free agency. And you guys know I love AJ Epinesa. And my whole model was you can get, 2 or 3 for the price of 1, Josh Allen. And I think that that's where Brad Holmes is going to go this year. I don't think that he's going to go and find or buy a defensive end, defensive tackle that's, an extreme amount of money. It's just a personal feeling. It's a guess right now. I don't have, any secured inside information. It's way too early anyway. So I think that Brad Holmes is going to be shopping the mid-tier market pretty hard this offseason, trying to plug holes with upgrades. Now, if you watch the AJ Epinesa video tonight, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those type of players, $5 to $7, $5 to $8 million a year guys. You're getting 3 of them. You're plugging a bunch of holes, and you're finding upgrades. That's Brad Holmes' model, right? And he wants to find upgrades. That's what's the most important to him, is that you're getting better year over year. I do believe that he does go out and find a top tier corner, though. I think that's where he's going to find the trade. And no, it's not JC Horn. That's a bunch of rubbish, and I'm not even going to go into it. But to be honest with you, I think that the Lions would benefit more of a second contract guy, cornerback that has proven experience on the field, that has, good stats. I think it's even better, like I spoke to on Thursday morning, that you go and poach, NFC North talent if it exists. So you've got a Danielle Hunter, big time free agent's going to cost a lot of money. If Brad can land him, he might. But I almost feel like he's going to try to land a Jalen Johnson type player first to solidify the DB room, knowing that there's a lot of mid-tier guys in free agency. And then you have about 5 or 6 teams right now in the offseason that are in cap purgatory. They're in trouble. They're way upside down. So they're not going to be able to sign a lot of their own guys back to the team. They're going to have to go shop in Brad's department, which is, the dollar store or Dollar General, whatever Derek likes to call it. He's going to be shopping at the Kmart special All the teams that, are in trouble, that's just where they're going to have to reside. They're going to have to try to keep some of their big name players, and then the rest they're going to have to fill in. Brad's in a little bit of a different situation, in my opinion, that he needs to fill a couple of holes right now to get this defense up to a top 10. That's all he needs to do, is get this defense to a top 10 caliber with personnel. And now you're in your fourth season with your coaching staff. There's no excuses for Aaron Glenn as long as Brad Holmes comes through and plugs a couple holes. Cornerback, mid-tier defensive ends that are upgrades over Charles Harris, upgrades over John Kaminsky, Julian Okwara, Romeo Okwara. You upgrade those positions, and we're going to be fine. But I think that's the key. I think that's the big change is after looking at the draft, I don't think you're going to find too many stud, or gems, diamonds in a rough, if you will, past the third round. I think it's going to be very tough. So, all right, who do we got in here? Charles Braley says there's at least 7 cornerbacks to choose from in free agency. There is, and I think that there's a couple that are pretty good. Suki, new name, haven't seen you in here before. Welcome into Rock Down Detroit Lions. Says, why not JC? Seems like a Brad thing to do. So from what I understand, I didn't watch this video, but I heard that Brad Holmes, and correct me if I'm wrong, was going to trade out of our first pick, 29th overall, for a JC Horn. I mean, can you guys not imagine how asinine that is? So you would rather pass up a first round pick that you're going to have on a cheap contract for 5 years for JC Horn? Yeah, no, not happening, guys. Sorry. Rock Down Detroit Lions is not for the clicks or the bait. We're just here to give you great content that's backed by facts, and that's not a fact. That's called false media. Lone Wolf says, I don't see the Bills bringing in Epinesa back. Lions have a real shot at signing him. So I think that the Bills want him back, but I do believe that they're really up against it financially. They've got to clear $75 million in cap. And as long as they clear $75 million, then they will be able to do a lot. But if they can't, I think that AJ Epinesa is going to test free agency. And I think the Bills are willing to allow that risk to see if someone's going to overpay. They'll probably give them either a 1-year deal or, some sort of an extension and say, hey, this is the most that we can afford. Sorry. We have to sign DaQuan Jones and, some of the other personnel that they have, out in free agency and the other bigger names that they need to extend so that they can keep. And AJ's probably going to say, yeah, I appreciate it, but I've got to see what's out there. And I think AJ is a perfect fit. I mean, he's that Brad Holmes model, that Dan Campbell model. He really is. And an Iowa guy. And we know what kind of guys come from Iowa, what kind of ball players come from Iowa. Anybody that's attended that school has been a pretty darn good player in the NFL, just about. Football Head Wolf says, that's not true. I don't know what's not true. He finds insane people in the draft, so I wouldn't say he wouldn't find anyone at 29 when he found Amon-Ra in the 4th or 5th. I don't know what you mean by that, because that's clearly not what I said. But what I said is it's going to be difficult to find people after the 3rd round. 29 is, someone was saying that they were going to trade, Brad Holmes was going to trade pick 29 for JC Horn. And what I'm saying is that ain't going to happen. Pick 29 would get you a top tier player for 5 years, not JC Horn. Not worth a first round pick, not even close. So Al Bundy says, yo. So anyway, let's go through some of these scenarios. And I'm going to point out, I'm not going to control the draft, meaning I'm not going to force it to do anything. I'm just going to let it play out for the first one. And then we'll initiate some trades. This is the first year I've done the mock draft live, but I'm doing this because I want to show you guys the type of talent that's going to be there at certain times or certain areas based on, the way that these models are drawn out. And from what I understand, the algorithm with PFF is there's a lot of data that goes into this. And based on how everyone else is drafting, it will also take that into consideration for where players are landing and availability. So, if you got a million people that jump on and they're super aggressive and they're trading, first round picks for a 7th round pick and they're forcing the trade, well, that's going to screw up the algorithm. But that's why we're going to try to play with it for a little bit and see what happens. Football says, all I heard is that they have to trade up to get someone good. No, they do need to trade up to get a top tier is what I'm telling you. And you'll see as we roll through this. And I don't know if you've looked at hundreds of player personnel profiles or watched, hundreds of hours of tape. And if you haven't, I would tell you to go do that, because if you go and look at a lot of these players that are available later on, like after pick 45, that's what I was saying. You've got defensive ends that are, 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds, and they're ranked in the top 90. They're ranked in the top 60. That doesn't make a bit of sense to me. And if that's the best of the quality that there is available based on PFF's rankings, then that's a problem. So, all right, let me bring it in. All right, so we're just going to select the Lions. We're going to go 7 rounds. We're going to enter the draft. I'm not going to do anything funny with it. Let's roll. Yeah, see, so pick 28. I mean, everyone's disappeared, it looks like, already. So let's see who was taken. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Malik Nabers. Malik over Marvin, but then Marvin. So only 2 quarterbacks taken 1 and 2. Brock Bowers seems crazy to me at 5. Cooper at 6. I've got to see him at the combine because I can't believe it. Joe Alt makes sense in the top 10 to me, but Jaden Daniels, he could go up at number 3 because the Patriots really need to find a quarterback. I watched Jerzon Newton's tape. I wasn't like crazy in love with the guy. Like, not really. Odunze, I think, is going to be a baller. The guy that I really like, which I'm going to do a video on this week, is Brendan Rice. Love him. The guy is an animal. The Lions would do well to try to pick him up. And I'm not saying we need a wide receiver, but we kind of do. It just depends on who's coming back. And that's the thing that everyone needs to understand is, this is all pre-draft, pre-combine, pre-free agency. Once the combine happens, all of the information changes. And once a little bit of free agency changes, or once free agency happens, all the information changes again. And maybe you do or don't understand that, but that's why there's so many mock drafts that are done. So who would you guys take? I mean, you've got a tackle. We don't need a quarterback. You've got a wide receiver. Don't need him. Let me make this a little wider. So I would say that we need an edge first, a defensive lineman, or a cornerback. Where is there a cornerback listed? There's not. There you go, TJ Tampa. Now, I did watch his tape. He's pretty good. He's ranked at 39. Would I take him at 39? Yes. Or I'm sorry, would I take him at 29? Yes. But there's no Trevonde Sweat. There's no Murphy. And those are the types of guys that you need that are game wreckers. So let's look at the first edge in Chris Braswell. 6'3", 255. So he's a tweener. He's kind of right on the edge of the size of defensive end that fits the model that we did the other day. And the model is 6'3" to 6'4.5", 265 to 285, I believe, are the poundage. But my problem is we don't have any other stats on this guy that are loaded in here yet. So PFF has not listed any of the stats Well, they got the stats, but they don't have the analysis in here yet. And we don't have any combine information, so we don't know how long his arms are. Now, what I would do is I would go look up that information, and then I would come back and assess the guy after I watched his tape. But I will tell you right now, the top edge in the draft has probably already been taken. In Latu. See, now I think Latu is probably going to slip. I think that there's going to be some questions on his health. His former coach said that his career was done. Then he went on to play a couple of seasons, had a couple of good seasons, but how is that going to translate to the NFL? So Jared Verse, there you go. I think that he could be the number one edge. And then you've got Braylon Trice. He's another one that's that top 1-2. So if you don't have a top 1-2, 3, at 29, you've got to go to the next position, right? So if it's not going to be edge, and you need a corner, we're taking TJ Tampa. Now, I'm not saying I like all these picks. We're just going to roll through it for fun. So now we're at 61, and we know that we need offensive line. We need to find a replacement for Ragnow. We need to find a replacement for Jonah Jackson in the event that he doesn't come back. We need to find a replacement for Graham Glasgow in the event that he doesn't come back. So my theory here would be that you want to grab a guard at some point early so that you have a guard that's really good that can at least replace one of them, because one of them should come back. But if they don't, you're screwed. And Ragnow, I can't see him going more than one more season. So you need to find a guard that plays center, or say it the other way, a center that plays guard, so that you have versatility. That's how I would be drafting if it were me. So here we are. We're not taking JJ McCarthy, obviously. We got Brandon Fisk. Let's take a look at him because we do need a defensive lineman. 6'5", 297, so he fits. Now I'd have to go deeper and look at what type of scheme does he play? What type of gaps does he hit? Let's take a look at his stats. So he primarily plays in the B gap. And that's exactly what the Lions need. They need a B gap defensive lineman. So he would fit. Now, if we look at his grades, pass rush grade 73, run defense 69, not terrible. Pass rush win rate, not so good. Run stop rate, not so good. Even though it's kind of ranked in a higher mark here on the right, that's not the greatest. You want your pass rush win rate to be up near 20% or better. Run stop rate should be higher than that too. But again, you'd have to go watch the highlights. So I'm going to go based off of what I know. And I'm going to move down. So Austin Booker, let's take a look at Austin Booker real quick. 6'6", 245. Pretty thin, right? He could probably put 10 or 15 pounds on, but he's pretty thin. Man, you guys got a ton of chat in here. It all just showed up. I apologize. Hold on. Renardo Green, Joseph Ostin says, Renardo Green, cornerback from Florida, is interesting. I would agree. I think he's a little bit on the smaller side, if I'm not mistaken. TaylorMade Media says, my guess is there are PFF models that are similar to what they use at NFL level that runs on the SageMaker. Vincent Some says, what are your thoughts on Trey Taylor? I haven't looked at Trey Taylor yet. Kool-Aid. So Kool-Aid was already taken before 29. Otherwise, I do like Kool-Aid. But there's somebody else that I'm going to key in on tonight that I'm going to show you guys that I think you're going to like. And you can get him later. What up, No Zeros? Nice to meet you, man. You're a new name. Is Chop there? So Chop must have been available somewhere here. Let's see. Let's whittle it down. Oh, he's already gone. So he's gone before pick 61. Love Cooper Beebe. I think that he's a great offensive lineman, somebody that will fit. Bo Lemer is my favorite center right now. Again, this stuff will change after the combine. But Bo Lemer, Arkansas, you know, who else was a former Razorback? Frank Ragnow. So those are two guys that I like as far as offensive line. And about the only two that I like. Dylan McMahon, I mean, if you have to take a center late in the draft, he'll be available. As far as tackles that also play guard, I know I'm bouncing around here for a second, but I'm trying to see what's available. Dominic Pooney is probably the most interesting prospect at this point in the draft. Look at this guy's stats. So last year he played left guard in 2022, 848 snaps. And then he played left tackle. So he has that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell versatility. He's got amazing size, 6'5", 320. He's 22 years old, so he's still pretty young. When we look at his stats, pass blocking grade is a 90.5. Run blocking, pretty good, 72.3. So this is a guy that I would take right here. And I know it's not sexy, but this is a guy that I would take right here. I did look at Matt Goncalves. You can get him probably at the next pick at 73 or 92. He's also somebody that you could wait for. After that, it gets pretty ugly, to be honest with you. Again, I'm looking for 2 or 3 impact players. I'm doing the Brad Holmes model. 2 or 3 impact players. That's all I want in this draft. Tight end, you guys know that I love Theo Johnson. He has been available, late in the 3rd into the 4th round. I don't know that I would wait that long. I have a feeling that he is going to move up. Let me look at a couple more, and then we'll make our pick. Cornerback. I want to show you guys this cornerback that I absolutely fell in love with watching his tape. Kamal Hayden. Love this guy. Now, I know his run defense grade is crap, but I'm not worried about that. It's his coverage grade, 90.4. 6'1", 197. He is a perfect fit for my analysis and what I like in a corner. I'd have to go look him up to look at his speed. But here you go. 267 snaps this year at corner. Came up 28 times in the box. Obviously, when he came up the box, he didn't do that well, but we have Brian Branch for that. We just need this guy to play corner. We just need him to play man press corner is what we really need. And that information is not on this page. So you have to go look up his man press stats. And here's the man coverage grade right here, 69, which is not terrible. But see this completion rate, 36.4%. So that means when quarterbacks are throwing at them, they're only completing 1 out of 3 balls or 1 out of 4 balls. So this guy I like, and you're going to find him later on in the draft. But go check him out. Go watch his tape. You're going to love him, I promise. And if you can pick him up, late in the 3rd, early in the 4th, beautiful thing. But again, the combine is going to change all of this. Vincent Some said, which one? Edrin Cooper? Braden Fisk. See, I'm not too big on Braden Fisk right now because of his size. I mean, he's close, right? But 6'5", 297. I'm sorry, it wasn't his size. Let me go back to him. It was his pass rush win rate, only 8.9%. And his run stop rate of only 8.5%. Size was good. My apologies. I misspoke. We definitely don't need a linebacker right now. But we're going to take Pooney. We're going to see what happens. We'll see how it get graded. We need a guy that can play guard. And I don't know, these are unsexy picks. It's not what everyone wants to see. But this is what this is giving us. Now, Rook, I'm not even going to pronounce his last name because I always butcher it. But Rook, I do love Rook. And you're going to have to pick him right now if you want him. Because he's going to be gone more than likely by 92. So far, who do we got? We have TJ Tampa. So we got a corner early. And now we've got an offensive lineman. We're at pick 73. We really need to find someone on the defensive line, and there's really just nothing here. Brandon Dorloos is probably the last guy that I would take. A little bit better of a pass rush win rate at 10.5. Run stop rate, not the greatest. Size is pretty good at 6'3", 290. He can probably throw on 10 pounds. Watch this tape. It was pretty good. It's not blazing. It's not going to shock you. Yeah, we do really need an edge. But this is where it's all leading up to. That's why I was saying earlier, this is why I think that Brad Holmes is going to be shopping mid-tier guys free agency more than focusing on the draft. Because once you get past the first round and you get outside of the top 20, there's really nobody that jumps off the page. These guys are more than likely going to be mid-tier guys in the NFL, unless, you find that diamond in the rough, that Kobe Turner, like I found last year, that ends up being, just a straight dog in the NFL. But it's slim to none. So let's whittle it down to what we need. This system says that we still need a guard, a center, a defensive line, and a cornerback. Hey, George Vanderveen, nice to see you in here. Trey Taylor is amazing. Let me look him up. Safety, Air Force, rank 208. So we could probably get him, 5th round at this point. Pick 207 or before. I'll have to check out his tape. I'll make a note and I'll watch him. All right, so for inside-outside offensive linemen or interior offensive linemen, Cooper Beebe is still available. I just don't see how the Lions can pass on 2 guards in this draft, knowing that we want to keep the offensive line as stout as it can be for many years to come, right? I mean, if Jonah Jackson doesn't come back, we're screwed. But I also think that Jonah's going to get way overpaid. And if Graham Glasgow comes back, I mean, he's, a little older, but he still has a couple of good seasons left. And we need a good backup. I mean, you guys saw our backups last year. Awo Sika did okay in the last game, but that's not who we want to ride or die with. Kobe Sorsdahl did okay at times. Other than that, was not the greatest. We do not have a bunch of offensive linemen in the hopper right now. And that's why I think that Brad Holmes is going to go heavy offensive, defensive line. We don't need anything for offensive weapons, really. I mean, if we rolled through the season with who we have, it's just fine. We are going to need a receiver at some point. Tight end, if our tight ends are got all banged up at the end of the season, so they're all a little injured right now, but they should be back. But that doesn't mean that that's who you want to rest your hat on if you're trying to keep the cap low, address a need for the future. You grab a tight end in this draft. I know it's unsexy to pick it back-to-back years, but I think that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So I'm going to take Cooper Beebe at this point only because you want to solidify what is our number one game-changing positional group, which is the offensive line. If we're missing offensive linemen, this offense doesn't work. So here we are. We're now back at pick 92, and Rook slipped. He's still available. I don't think that I can pass on Rook at this point. What do you guys think? I think I have to take him because we need defensive line, and I think that this guy can become a game changer. I don't know how he's slipping. His grades are not the greatest. His pass rush win rate's a little low, 6'4", 295, so he has the size. He comes from Clemson, so he's gone through some pretty good coaching. Here we go. We're going to grab Rook. Let me just scroll down and see who else is available. I like Bo Leamer. He's my favorite center in the draft. I don't know if I already told you guys that. All right, we'll take Rook. Oh, look who just showed up to the party. Theo Johnson. Look at that. You can't pass on this kid. You just can't. And again, I know he's He's got terrible looking grades, but you just got to look at the tape. I just put out a video on him, and I'll tell you, his grades do not match the tape at all. 2 drop catches the entire season, 6 his entire career at Penn State. Sam Laporta had 6 drops his last year at Iowa alone. And look what Sam turned out to be. I love this kid. I really do. I think that he's going to have a bright future in the NFL. I think he's going to shock some people. And look, I've been wrong many times in my life, so I could be wrong here too. But I got to take him. I can't pass up not taking an offensive weapon that we need. That's the only one that I could say we need comfortably because of the injuries that we sustained last year. So now we're down to the bottom of the barrel, pick 207 and pick 247. And I'm going to be opening up the phone lines as soon as I'm done with this draft. All right, who we taking here? J Mommy says the Lions need to draft a Michigan offensive lineman. They are trained in multiple positions. I like that thought. The one thing that I do though, you guys know I'm not a Michigan fan, but I try to keep my school out of it. You know, like if there was a bunch of Michigan State players that were incredible, I wouldn't draft them just to draft them. But I hear what J Mommy is saying because she's very accurate that like Zach Zinter, he can play all across the line. He may not do it every year, but he can play all across the line. Very unique prospect. I just watched the tape on Bo and I liked Bo better. And I like the school that he comes from. They usually turn out pretty good offensive linemen. And I believe Zach had a pretty rough injury last year. Did I get that right? I think I did. Brent, you haven't missed much, man. We're just talking about the draft and taking a look at what players have been available so far and how it's really slim pickings for the defense, you know, especially cornerbacks, D linemen, once you get out of the first round, and why it may make sense that a few things happen. 1, Brad is going to shop heavy mid-tier market free agency. 2, Brad trades up from 29 to jump into the top 20. What are we going to give up to do that? We'll find out later on tonight. I have no idea how late I'm going to go tonight, but it could be a while. I don't know. All right. So who do we have in front of us here? We're at pick. You guys know I'm picking a kicker at 247. So someone call the pick. Zinter broke his leg. Oh, that doesn't sound good. So far we have cornerback pick 1, TJ Tampa. And at pick 61, we took Dominic Puini, tackle, who also plays left guard. And then at 73, we took Cooper Beebe, who's a guard, who I believe also can play center. I might be mistaken there. And then at 91, we took, 92, we took Rook Ororo. I can't say his last name. Ororo. Sounds like Scooby-Doo. And then the last pick we took Theo Johnson, tight end. So we're doing pretty good. We've picked one of each right now. Now we're at pick 207. It's kind of like roll the dice. Who do you feel is the best one available? Because that's how you should be picking, in my opinion, is BPA. Trey Benson. I would love to get Trey Benson. He can eventually replace Monty. So that's a good question. Craig Reynolds. I don't think his contract's up, right? I think he's still on the team this year. I don't remember. But do we really need a halfback right now? Is that something that you just would prefer to grab just because? What about, this? I like the Alabama kicker, Reichard or whatever his name is. What about Keith Randolph Jr., defensive line, Illinois? 6'5", 305, big guy. 21 years old? No, how old is he? Doesn't say. Let's look at his stats. So he's got pretty low grades. He had a better year last year than he did this year. Yeah, we'll grab a kicker for sure. Disenchanted says, I'm glad you're not drafting. This is just a fun one. This is just, we're letting it roll the way it's rolling. But last year, by the way, I picked all 5 of our first 5 draft picks, and I called it way before the draft. So you probably should be excited that I'm drafting. Just going to throw that out there. And the receipts are on this channel. Promise you. All right, someone make the pick. Who are we picking here? 207. Safety. Taking a safety. All right, we're taking a safety. So we're going to take the first one that's available. Jalen Green. Let's see. First look, 6'1", 200 pounds. So he's got decent size. Oh, I didn't mean to back out of him. Let's take a look at his stats. Oh, we don't have any stats. Come on, PFF. Plays up in the box quite a bit, so you know he must be a thumper, and he covers deep, and he plays in the slot. So it could turn out to be a pretty good pick. We're taking Jalen Green. And then the last pick, you guys know I've got to take a kicker because the Lions need a kicker. And I'll get like a C- grade for taking a kicker right here, but I don't know how to tell PFF, like, look, I don't have another pick unless I trade back. But Will Reichard, this guy, 6'1", 194, great size, even though kickers, it really doesn't matter. But the taller they get, like if they get too tall, their legs take longer to swing. There's a whole thing that I read on this. It was kind of crazy. So taking guys that are super tall that are kickers is not a good idea, but 6'1", I think is, I don't know, fine. Let's look at some of these other guys. So Cardi from Stanford, he's 6'2", so he gets even taller. I mean, I 6'2" is not like crazy tall, but Cam Little from Arkansas, 6'2", 179. How about Harrison Mevis? 5'11", 243. Well, he's got some weight on him. No grades. I don't like that. Mevis from Missouri. Heard he's got like number 1 in kicks. Really? All right. We'll roll with it. All right. Let's see what happened. Probably got terrible grades. B- isn't bad. A- for Rook slipping. That's pretty good. Now, let me pull in for those of you that are joining late or just now joining. This was the draft that I did earlier, and I didn't change anything, but this is what I would hope that the Lions could pull off. If you could end up with 2 defensive linemen back-to-back like that and Tavronde Sweat slip to 61, that would be incredible. Go watch the tape on both of those guys, Murphy and Sweat. Murphy is even better than Sweat, and Sweat was giving me I don't know, deja vu of Ndamukong Suh is what I'll call it. Dude was, he's a game wrecker. Both of these guys. It would be interesting to have teammates on a team. But the goal was I was grabbing best player available and trying to fit it to a need. And that's where I ended up. So Dominic Pooney, tackle, plays left guard. Cooper Beebe, guard. I do believe he can play some center. Theo Johnson, I believe, is going to be one of the best tight ends out of this draft, probably top 3. Dylan McMahon is your center that would replace Ragnow at some point, but then again, he's taken pretty late in round 6. No guarantees with that. And then Will Reichard, kicker, because the Lions need a kicker. But that's what I would love to see happen, and I just kind of let it free flow. So let me take this off the screen, and then I want to just kind of show you one more time the mock draft, players available after first round. So we're just going to let it go. Let's see who gets taken. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake May. So that would be odd that Marvin went number 2, but it could happen. Odunze, Joe Alt, Brock Bowers, Malik Neighbors, Dallas Turner. I think he's one of the better edge rushers in this draft. Nate Wiggins, I got to be honest with you guys, I was not highly sold on Nate Wiggins, and I'm not just saying that to say it. I watched his tape, very handsy. And anytime you're handsy in college, it's going to be glorified at the pros. Yes, he can fix it, but he was very handsy. Jared Verse could be one of the better edge rushers in this draft. The combine, I'm telling you, it changes things for me because I see little things in their hips and the way they run and the way they change direction, how fluid they are. That's what I liked about Brendan Trice. Matter of fact, I'm putting a video out about Brendan Trice. I'm not going to spoil it. Yeah, you're right, Robert. It's all fun and games until Brad Holmes starts moving pieces. Yeah, so cornerback. I didn't see but one cornerback taken right now in the top 28. Only Nate Wiggins. Nope, Quinnen Mitchell too. He's gone too. And then Kool-Aid. Yep, he's gone too. The screen's very small for me. So 3 corners were taken in the top 28. Really in the top 19. So let's see what corners are available at 29. If the Lions stayed, you got Kamari Lassiter. 6 foot, 180. 180, in my opinion, is just a little bit small. He can gain weight, absolutely. TJ Tampa, we've already taken him last draft. He's 6'2", 200. This guy, I mean, he's going to be more of a safety size. And when you look at his speed, I think he runs a 4.4. Scouting report, NFL Draft Buzz, TJ Tampa runs 4.45. So to me, that's good. You do not need to run 4.2, 4.3 speed to be a great corner. As long as your awareness is great, your vision is good, your technique is sound. Speed, I mean, you're talking a 10th or 2. That is not going to be the difference in this game at the next level. Yes, speed matters, but 4.45 to a 4.35, you're not going to notice it. These guys are still running backwards anyway, so they're already at a disadvantage. It's all about the hips and the awareness and the ball skills. That's why Devon Witherspoon did what he did last year. That's why Sauce Gardner did what he did, the season before that. So TJ Tampa, I do like him. If he is there at 29, I mean, I just think it's a no-brainer that the Lions are going to have to do that or defensive end. Brent says there's no way I would get a cornerback in the first round. So let's walk with that theory. That means that we have to get one in free agency. So if Brad Holmes gets a cornerback in free agency, a top tier, Jalen Johnson type, then we don't need a corner early in the first round. I'm telling you guys, go look at Hayden, who right now is somewhere in the 150s or so. But Kamal Hayden, dude has incredible playmaking ability. So let's take a look at edge, but let's open up the phone lines too. So give me just one moment. So there's Chop Robinson. So would you reach from 29, or would you take a chance and try to trade back? Because I believe that Chop is a very good prospect, but you're reaching, or maybe you're not. Hey, King SJ, what's happening? So we were just going through some draft stuff, talking about, I think that there's going to be a major change or a major rift based on the type and quality of draft picks that are going to be available, after the first round, definitely after pick 45, and inside the top 30, your top 3 cornerbacks are going to be taken. So does that mean that the Lions are going to wait till the 3rd round, where they have 2 picks? How are they going to address the defensive line? If they're going to be, steadily purchasing mid-tier, Both Derek and I spoke to it. He did a video about it, and I did one today on AJ Epinesa, that would solidify our defensive line. So let me open up the phone lines here. Make sure everything's turned on. I want to hear from you guys today and what your thoughts are about the draft and about free agency right now. So let's talk about it and let's see what everyone has to say. So the phone number to call, if you guys don't know it already, is 313-312-0348. And then let me do another public service announcement. So I noticed in all of my subscriptions on YouTube, like I wasn't getting any notifications for even my own stuff. And I went and checked my subscriptions, and all of my notifications were set to personalized. I didn't do that. I have my own stuff set to all. So if I'm not getting my own notifications, I can't imagine that you guys are getting notifications. So let me know, did you guys get a notification for this live stream tonight? If you did not, and you want one, obviously click the bell, select all, and then you'll know every time we go live, every time that we're posting content. But the reason why I'm asking the question is because sometimes YouTube does updates, wipes everything out. It'll reset your YouTube. I mean, you'll still have all your subscriptions, but it wipes all of your settings out. Now, I never noticed it until I wasn't getting my own notifications. So I'm not going to draft anybody right at this moment. What I'd like to do is open up the phone lines to get somebody on the line to tell me what they think about the draft and pending free agency. Phone number is on the screen in the live chat replay. Bobo Land says, building through the trenches, going to be defensive line or offensive line in the first round, in my opinion, and I would agree with that. I think that we're going to go defensive line, offensive line heavy just because of what is going to be available early. I would say that Brad Holmes might potentially move up. Late, he could move back. Better the Hunt says, I'm getting notifications. Awesome. Thank you. Martin said that he is going to work out and get into better shape. That might work. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. So if him and Aleem McNeil are working out, this offseason, and Aleem is showing him the ropes and having him, do some of the same things that he did, I think, one, that would be incredible that they're working together to get better. And two, I think that it would highly benefit Broderick Martin this next offseason. He was very rigid when he was in the game. He didn't have any pop. His hands weren't heavy. He seemed to even get manhandled for how big that he is. You get a nasty center and a nasty guard that, it's real vicious with the hands. They'll push you around. And that's what was happening to Martin. He needs to take his hands and get more heavy with it. All right, we got someone call. Hey, this is Will with Rockdown Detroit Lions. Who am I talking with?
How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, hang on a second. All right, Peter Charles Braley.
Hey, Peter Braley, how you doing tonight?
Good.
So what's on your mind, man? What are you thinking about this draft and, NFL free agency coming up? What do you think these Lions need to do?
There's in the beginning on quarterbacks, maybe 5, 6, and then maybe a run on corners mixed in with defensive interior guys. If you look at the 7 quarterback corners that are really good, that's just the first 7. When we come in, when we go out, when we get done with people having to release people like who was the team that was $73 million over the cap? The Bills. Yeah,
the Bills are one of them. I think they're close to 91 million or something crazy. Forget my numbers. They're probably not very accurate because I looked at so many teams, but there's 5 or 6 teams that are really bad off right now that need to get down.
Yeah, so they're going to have to pair 3, 4, 5 guys a piece, depending on what they're doing. So that's gonna widen out that free agency, especially maybe even corners, because good corners are always expensive. So you're gonna mix, and there's gonna be maybe a feeding frenzy, because the free agency always starts at midnight of whatever day. Because I remember when Jim Schwartz was the head coach, he was parked in Kyle Vanden Bosch's driveway, waiting for midnight, calling him and talking to him. So these guys are going to go out.
Yeah.
So you could see a hard run on those, but I think we'll end up with a defensive end. I personally, if we're not going to draft a corner, because Brad Holmes, he's going to take the best guy available, no matter what. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I believe that too. He's all about BPA. He doesn't care about need. But my question is this a year that he focuses maybe 50-50 BPA versus need, meaning best player available for the need that I need? I mean, I need a defensive edge. I need to take the best one available. I may have to reach. I mean, everyone thought that we reached for Jack Campbell. Didn't turn out to be a reach. He's also a very special player. The Lions needed 2 impact players. We ended up with 4. This is truly a season. We need 2 impact players on defense, whether it's free agency or draft. And as long as he gets a corner and a defensive end or a corner and a defensive tackle, I think that we're way up, above, head and shoulders above where we were last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the draft last year, if you listen to Captain Hairspray on ESPN, he thinks we did horrible. And look what we did. We smoked people in that draft.
Who's Captain Hairspray?
Made everybody pay. Mel Kiper Jr. Who's like the worst guy that rates people because he uses athletic analytics and that's it.
Gotcha.
I don't need an athletic guy. I need a guy who knows what he's doing. You got to have a brain. You got to have a brain in your head, not a slice of Swiss cheese.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you think about it, the corners, like, I'm sorry, and that's the analogy that I was making earlier. You don't just draft a corner because they run 4.27 and they're 6 foot and 185. Great, they got a great body, great speed, but do they have a brain? Do they know where to be? Do they have good technique? Do they have smooth hips? Because if the answer is no, speed kills then because he's going to be all over the place and way out of position. Yeah. So let's talk about corners. You mentioned corners. You mentioned there's going to be a run on corners in the draft, but in free agency, we've got Jalen Johnson, Ladarius Sneed, Kendall Fuller, Awuzie, Stephon Gilmore, the old guy. And Steve,
I wouldn't even mind taking Stephon.
Yeah.
Maybe on a 2-3 year deal if it's affordable, and then try to find a corner. But if you can't find a corner, then you got to find maybe a younger corner in free agent, a second tier defensive tackle, because we're like you just commented before I called. Yeah, Broderick Martin is going to do the Aline McNeil. He's going to shed fat, add muscle and flexibility. Now, to me, if he needs to be flexible, the best thing for him to do, and this is going to sound weird, is take a ballet class.
No, that doesn't sound weird at all. I mean, that's
because when you look at them little girls when they do their ballerina stuff, and you can see them put their foot over their head and twirl on one thing. You can't. That's the only place you can go to get that kind of flexibility.
It's all about balance. It's all about balance, and if your body can stay balanced, and that's what I noticed about. Oh my goodness, Matthew Betts is his balance when his hand comes up off the ground and you look at his back and it's flat at the attack point, and he went to launch and he is completely perfectly balanced and he's launching at the offensive line. That's a guy that takes balancing serious. And they make those little things that you can stand on with the ball in the middle and you put one leg up and then, one leg back. And that's what they need to do. Well,
for balance, it's yoga. Take a yoga class. I bet you he probably took the yoga class somewhere. He'll make that team just based off his speed. And if he doesn't get on the field in the D line, he'll be a special teams guy. especially if we re-sign Maven, because you got the gunners going in. The guy gets past the gunners. You got Maven, who's fairly fast. He's not gonna beat a wide. He's not gonna beat a lot of people. But you got Maven, and Betts. They can go in on that second tier in. So
yeah,
I think there's some wiggle room for Brad Holmes. I would take, if I was him, I would take that low 6, low 7 corner, even though they're still really good.
All right,
second tier defensive tackle.
Yep, I'm with you.
Then draft the defensive end. If you have to trade down, maybe 2 or 3, cycle out some of those second, third picks, maybe grab that guy that you talked about, the tight end, when it's time. Maybe 2 defensive ends at the high 2. Start grabbing offensive linemen after that, because let's be honest, as much as we all love Frank Ragnow, that man is basically held together by spit, duct tape, and chicken coop wire
and dirt.
If he finishes contract, I expect he'll retire after he finishes his contract.
Yeah, I think he's one and done. I think he's got one more year in him. I mean, you could just tell after his response after the game, after the NFC Championship, that he was feeling it. Like, he put everything on the line. He was feeling it, and he probably didn't think he was going to play again. But then Dan Campbell came out and said, "We're going to the Super Bowl," and he's like, "You know what? I'm in. Here I go, coach. Let's go." He would have played that day.
I think Frank's a stand-up guy. That's why he'll play out to his contract. And then you have a clown next to him who's a yellowback sissy named Jonah Jackson, who can't play because he has a shoulder injury. Rub some dirt on it and get in the game. You got a guy next to you who's got 6, 7 injuries, and you can't even look at on the computer because it's all jumbled, and he's out there performing at a top level.
Yeah, it's incredible.
The guy sprains his ankle in his knee, and he's still out there playing. So,
all right. So, since you called in, we're at pick 29. Right now, you go ahead and make the pick. You've got edge Chris Braswell, edge Jonah Ellis from Utah, edge Darius Robinson, edge Chop Robinson. Yeah. Who are you taking?
I'm taking. I heard about. I don't really follow a lot of college, because I just don't have time to sit there and watch a 4-hour football game. I can't watch my Boston Red Sox play 4 hours, so I'm not going to watch football. But I've heard good things about Darius Robinson. He has those wonderful problems that we all love. He can play defensive tackle and defensive end. He's big, strong, and fast. He can knock people over, and that sounds pretty good on the other side.
So he also has a 17% pass rush win rate. An 8% run stopping rate. He's graded 83.1 this season, and he can play over the tackle, outside the tackle, B gap, and we do need a B gap rusher. So Darius Robinson, pick 29, is going to the Detroit Lions, and the next caller will get to be picking pick 61. I appreciate you calling in tonight, Reader.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Thanks, man. Take care. All right. Well, first caller in, he picked Darius Robinson with pick number 29. Whoever's calling next, you get the next pick at 61. And that's how we're going to do this show tonight. I want to hear what you guys have to say about the draft. I want to hear what you guys have to say about free agency. So who's calling next? 313-312-0348. And Jay Mommy says ballet worked for Hutchinson. And if I remember correctly from the interview that he had with Mike Tirico, Aiden Hutchinson started dancing at a very young age because his sister was, and he enjoyed it. So he learned a lot about balance. He learned, a lot about his self-awareness and with his body. So it does help, whether it's ballet or dancing, yoga, whatever. Balance is very important for all of these NFL players. It wasn't back in the day. All we cared about is how much weight we could lift and who could hit the hardest, but there's more to the game now. John Steinhelper says, what do you think about the rumor of us trading out of the first round pick for JC Horn? I addressed it earlier. It's all fake news. There's only one person out there saying this. There's not one credible source out there talking about it. And that's for a reason. So Brad Holmes is never going to trade pick 29 for a JC Horn. Pick 29 gets you a 5-year contract on a rookie, and we just grabbed Darius, what's his name? Darius Robinson. Darius Robinson might be one of the better edge rushers in the draft. And you would rather have JC Horn, who just suffered a major injury last year, too, to his hamstring that knocked him out for a large majority of the season. Look, he may be a decent cornerback, but he's not a top tier cornerback. I would trade pick number 29. You know, if Jalen Johnson wasn't a free agent, I would trade pick 29 for Jalen Johnson, but not a JC Horn. Matter of fact, let's look up JC Horn real quick. Yeah, and to your point, Bobo Land, I would not be surprised if Holmes trades out of 29. Like that wouldn't surprise me at all. And I said that like 2 weeks ago that Brad Holmes is probably going to move up and grab Marvin Harrison at number 4. Or he could trade back. Or he could package up a bunch of 2025 assets and move way forward. JC Horn has an 84.1 overall player grade in 2023, 79.7 in run defense. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, so he's got great size. Been in the league, since 2020 probably? He was selected round 1, 8 overall. Come on, load it up. Looking for the stats here. Yeah, I promise you guys, if there's like some major trade going on, you're going to hear about it from insiders first. Guarantee it. All right, so defense for JC Horn. Let's just take a look at some of his stats, some of his grades. His overall reception percentage is 60.7, so he's letting up, 2 out of 3 balls are being caught, which is not terrible. What did he only played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He only played in 6 games last year because of his injury. So his numbers are widely skewed. Widely skewed. And I would have to do some more research to figure out more about him as far as where did he play. Was he number 1 or number 2 coming back from his injury? Because Carolina, they didn't have a pot to piss in last year. So anyway, I won't waste my time with it. It's just rumors for clicks. That's all it is. Demigod313 says, give me a game wrecker and a game changer. There you go. I love it. Matthew Thompson says, trade up to get Kool-Aid. His name is Kool-Aid. We drink the blue Kool-Aid. Yeah. I said the same thing the other day. It's kind of funny. It's almost a perfect name. This is why I want to do this tonight. So here we are. We're at pick 61. And somehow Trevonde Sweat slipped. I don't think that you have a choice here. Even though we grabbed Robinson earlier, you have to grab Sweat here. Now, this doesn't happen every time. And to your point, trading up to get a Kool-Aid, I think that's your only options in this draft is if you want a shutdown corner, you are going to have to get into the top 15. And even then, it's sketchy. There's only maybe 1 or 2 corners in this draft that are really good. But the Kamal Hayden that I found, I think that he's going to be really good. And I'm going to do a video on him this week to show you just how good I think he is. And you're going to be able to get him in a later round. That's if he doesn't fly up the boards after the combine. That's why the combine is so important. And I know I keep repeating myself, it seems like, but you're going to get all of this pre-information right now. And then the combine happens and you're able to match the tape to what you see as far as their true ability, without any pads, and they're just doing the drills. And that's where you're going to find the guys that make the most sense. The tape tells you, if you were to break it down in segments, I would say the tape is going to tell you 70% of what you know. The meetings, and all of the background data. Let me change that. The tape is going to tell you 50%. The meetings, all the background information, the interviews is probably going to tell you 35%. And that other 15% is going to be the combine and what their true measurements are and, what their true speed is, the hips. I mean, the hips are so important for some of these guys. So Brent, you don't like Kool-Aid? Robert Welch says the receivers hit the line running in Canada. The receivers hit the line running in Canada. Yes, they do. Okay, I get what you're saying now. Yeah, they do. And the defense also plays about a yard off the ball. That was to your point the other day, right? Brian Beeman says Sweat is a zero technique. We don't play with a nose tackle that often. He is a run stopper. If he could be an Ndamukong Suh type guy, I would love it. So let's take a look at Sweat real quick since I got him up. Let's look and see if he's a B gapper. 6'4", 362. Insane size. Let's see if he's a B gapper. He's a B gapper. There you go. That's what the Lions need. They need a B gap guy. So give me 1 sec. I'm going to look something up. One second. All right. So under the 4-3 defense, the defensive ends are going to have C gap responsibilities, while the strong side defensive tackle is in the A gap, and the weak side defensive tackle is in the B gap. So when you look at the gap responsibilities, that's what you're looking for. Now, Trevonde Sweat plays minor A gap, majority B gap. Never really outside the tackle, very rarely, and hardly ever off the ball. So for a defensive lineman in the B gap, he would be a perfect fit. And if you go and watch the guy, he's incredible. Since nobody called in, I made the pick. So who's picking at 73? Your caller next. 313-312-0348. Bobo Land says, I thought Martin was going to be the B gap guy at DT this year. Whoops. Yeah. So I'm not sold on Martin yet. He hasn't shown anything. Last year he got pushed around. He's really got to come back ready to roll. Demigod 313 says, even at 29, I feel comfortable with the Lions grabbing the best defensive end or trade for more picks. Or do you see other needs worthy of the 29th pick? This is the conversation, Demigod. So this is why we need to wait a few weeks. We're going to keep pumping out the content of all the guys that we like, all the guys that fit. I'm going to go in and find the guys that fit and do videos about them because we don't know exactly where we're going to land. AJ Epinesa is a second-tier guy, right? So if you grab two of those and it doesn't quite equal, a top-tier guy's salary, then Brad Holmes is not only saving money because he has to extend Goff and St. Brown. He could wait till next year on Penei Sewell. He could wait till next year on St. Brown. They could wait till next year on Jared Goff. Does anybody think that any one of those three are not going to get extended this year? And if they don't, then that really changes the game. So if they don't, it changes the game. They have more opportunity, more cash. But at the same time, if you extend Goff, you can also make his contract be really attractive and save even more money in the cap to allow yourself more ability to go out and find the guys that you need. So let's just say they get all second tier guys for defensive end and defensive tackle through free agency. And they don't go out and get a shutdown corner. Well, that didn't help. We need a corner that can come in and play number one and push Cam Sutton over to number two. I do not believe for 1 second that Cam Sutton was going to become our number one cornerback. I think that he was number two. I think that Brad Holmes was banking on Mosley. And if you guys remember, before the season started, Mosley had that cleanup surgery that backed him up like 4 weeks. So he couldn't start the season, and then he comes back and he gets hurt. 4 snaps, 2 snaps, whatever it was. So the point that I'm trying to make is that if Mosley was healthy and he played last season, I think we definitely win the Super Bowl, quite honestly, if he played well. Because we are only a game or two away from getting a 1 seed, and we are only a play or two away from making it into the Super Bowl. Having Mosley be your number one corner last year, who is definitely a better cornerback when he's healthy than Cam Sutton from a man press perspective, I just really don't believe that Cam Sutton was supposed to be our number one. So that's the long way of saying I think that the Lions need to find, quote unquote, shutdown, lockdown corner, whether it's through free agency or the draft. Unfortunately, in the draft, you guys know as well as I do that not every corner comes in and plays very well their first season. It's very few and far between. You have a couple that play pretty well. Brian Branch, we got really lucky with. Devon Witherspoon had a great season this first season. Sauce Gardner had a very good season this first season. But I would question to ask you what other corners that were taken in the first round last year outside Christian Gonzalez had an okay season. Deonte Banks, I think, had an okay season. But who else? So you have to take one in the first round. At least one that has a first round worthy grade that maybe slips and you find a gem, great, but you can't bank on that. You have to bank on the guys that can perform. And all of those guys, I believe, are in the top 15 of this draft. I do not see 15 first round grades in this draft. I don't. Last year, Brad Holmes said he didn't see 12, right? 12 or 14? I think it was 12. He didn't see 12, whatever the number. He didn't see 12 or 14 first round grades last year. That's why he said, I want to get in and get out. Find my guys, get out. Doesn't care where he's picking them. And that's what you've seen from him. And I think it's going to happen again this year. Robert Welch says Sweat would be a solid choice. Brian Bemis says, with missing out on JPJ, would you like to see a guy like Pooney from University of Kansas as a guy who can play both guard and center? Yes. Matter of fact, I selected him in my first draft tonight while I was waiting to go live. Well, let me get this off the screen. I'm sorry. It's right here. Oh, no, it's not here either. But yes, I drafted Byron Murphy, Trevonde Sweat, Dominic Pooney, then Cooper Beebe, Theo Johnson, Dylan McMahon, who's the center, and then a kicker. I like Pooney a lot, and I like his tape. He can play left tackle and left guard. So great eye, Brian. Demigod says, I would be trying to find another Devon Witherspoon. But is there one in this draft? Your number one guy is Cooper DeJean. I'm not even going to say what's on my mind. I'm just not going to do it. And Derek, if you're listening, you know what I was going to say. So 6'1", 207. Big guy. That's safety size. That's not corner size. That's safety size. And he might just be a safety. Whoever drafts him, he may not be a corner. Pretty decent grades. I mean, he's supposed to be the best guy, the best corner in the draft. But do you really see another Devon Witherspoon in here? Nate Wiggins? Go watch his tape. That's all I'm going to say. He's 6'2", 185, so he's got a lot of height. He's got a lot of length, big wingspan. He's handsy. And the handsy guys get flagged. Quinnen Mitchell, I do like a lot. 6 foot, 196, so he's almost a mirror image of Devon Witherspoon. I think Devon was like 5'11 and a half. But he also plays for who? Toledo. Now, I'm not saying that you can't find some really good players at the, lower tiered schools, but it's Toledo. That's it. I mean, that's really, and then you got Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid, 6'1", 195, good prototypical size. And here, let me pull him up on Draft Buzz real quick. Let's read about some of these top tier corners. So Kool-Aid, 88.4 overall grade. Really good in run defense. Tackling's really good, 88%, 91%. Coverage, 95%. Man press, 91%. Kool-Aid is the guy, I really believe. When you look at his tape, it's pretty good. His comparables are going to be Emmanuel Forbes, Patrick Surtain, and I don't know who Martin Emerson is out of Mississippi State. But those are your comparables. And if you want to look at his weaknesses, he allows wide receivers to stack him pretty deep. He needs to tighten up on his vertical. On his vertical phase and deny deep ball leverage to mitigate NFL level aerial threats. He struggles against physical route runners, especially on sharp breaks, must sharpen mirroring against agile physical receivers. Red zone patience and play recognition could elevate. Displays choppy transitions in the bail technique during zone looks. Walks the fine line with downfield physicality. Must dial back the hand fighting to avoid drawing the laundry on Sundays. So, handsy. All the handsy guys last year turned me off, and that's what dropped them down the boards, and that's why Devon Witherspoon, one of the main reasons why he shot up is because the guy could play with his hands in his pockets and then pull him out at the last minute. So who else do you have at the top of the list? You got Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold, another cornerback from Alabama. I did also watch his tape. Was not as impressed as I was with Kool-Aid McKinstry's. He is being compared to Devon Witherspoon, Trent McDuffie, and Christian Gonzalez. I mean, those are three incredible cornerbacks, but I didn't see it. But my eyes aren't, everything. That's just my personal opinion. Who else do we have? We have Kamari Lassiter. His comparables are Devon Witherspoon, Martin Emerson, and Trent McDuffie. So 2 out of 3 are really good. I don't know who this Martin Emerson person is. All right. Shout out to Steve with the $5 donation. Appreciate it. It should load up here on the screen here in just a minute. Mike Sanrestrel. Let me load it up. Mike Sanrestrel, the U of M ball hawk. Thoughts? I don't have any thoughts because I have not looked at him yet, but why don't we do it right now? Let's take a look at it. Let me pull him up. Mike Sanrestrel. Pull this guy over here. Let's do it live, Steve.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, first down.
Knows.
That's going to do it. That's going to do it. That's going to do it. Jared Goff delivers against his former team. Now all they have to do is take a knee 3 times, and this game will be over.
I don't know if you heard that, because for some reason it was not played through the Roadcaster. That was interesting. But here you go, Steve.
Jameson makes the catch. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, number 9.
All right, so Mike Sainristil. It's a weird last name, man. That's a tough one. All right, 5'10", 182. Try to get rid of some of these ads. All right, 5'10", 182, 4.45 40. So good speed, little short, little light. I mean, so that's the only difference you've got between college and the pros is, in college you get away with a little bit of height and weight indifference when you're playing on a really good team like that U of M defense, man. That was a really good defense. But let's look at his overall rating. So offensive rating, 79%. Quarterback rating when targeted, 77.2. So it's a little bit on the higher end compared to some of the other top tier guys. Tackling marginal at 68%, run defense at 78%, coverage 86%. So that's good. The man press is what I pay most attention to, because in our defensive scheme under Aaron Glenn, man press is what we're missing. We're missing a guy that can come up and really jam these receivers and play tight. The minute we have somebody that can do that, I believe that this defense is going to totally change. His draft projection right now is the 3rd round. So this is a guy that's going to benefit highly from the combine if he was invited. I would assume that he was. And if he has a really good showing, and he shows that his hips are really fluid, that can propel him a little bit. But I don't know enough about him as far as watching his tape. The U of M fans would know more than I do. But yeah, the NFL Draft Buzz, this is a great place to get some information if you guys are looking for some good information. And they do typically change, some of the information as the offseason goes along. Solid 4- and 3-star ratings from Rivals, 24/7, and ESPN. He is comparable to Asante Samuel, Christian Braswell, and Clark Phillips III. I'm going to go directly to his weaknesses because that's where I start. He's got a high back pedal, loses a step in transition. So that's not great, but that's a technique thing that can be changed. Plays with adequate speed, but there are concerns about his ability to handle the truly explosive speedsters of the NFL. Grab and drag tackler, who will struggle to make plays against running backs. So that's not great for up in the box. And he'll be susceptible to some catch and run plays against bigger receivers. So I guess what I'm seeing here is what I initially thought when I looked at his size, is that he's got some issues with his size that are going to spill over into the NFL. And Draft Buzz, you are going to get a letter from me because these ads are not cool, like pathetic. You should at some point be able to get through this without having ads popping up everywhere. Like if you can't read the article because of the ads, that's a problem. That's spam to me, and you will lose me in a heartbeat. That's why I like PFF, because you pay for it, you don't get any ads. I just don't know if they have everything pulled up right now. But let me pull up PFF for just a second. And we'll go to college. I think I just saw Lion Syndicate in there. It says, I love Draft Buzz. Sante was small. Oh, you heard it? Okay, cool. Awesome. Please don't yell. Who was yelling? Did I yell? I didn't yell. Did I? Or did it just get loud? All right. So we pulled up PFF. Thank you, Marie Stedman, for subscribing. Super appreciate it. Let me know if you guys see that stuff popping up on your side. That would be great if you do. That means it's working. Oh, I see. You guys are talking about all caps. Yeah, I type in all caps all the time too. All right, so NFL draft guide. Let's find it. I want to find these corners. Am I spelling his name wrong? Sinistro? There we go. All right, so these are Mike Sainristil, his grades. So not the greatest of grades. 89.4 versus Iowa. Missed tackle percentage, 44.4% versus Alabama. So up against a good team, he kind of had a rough day. Minnesota was a pretty decent team, 20% missed tackle rate. Purdue, 33.3. So the reason why I wanted to look at this is based on, Draft Buzz saying that he's having tough, tackling. Reception rate, not the greatest. I mean, he's given up 2 targets, 2 receptions, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 9 targets, 7 receptions. So yeah, mid-round guy, I guess, based on the stats, right? Now I haven't watched his tape, but just based on the stats, mid-round guy, not somebody that's going to come in and do, any sort of a justice. With our team right away. Why is it not letting me find the position? Here we go. Robert Welch says he's really hopeful about Betts. Me too. I think that there's a more upside to Betts than what meets the eye. I really think that people are going to be surprised. And I hope I'm not called out for that, because I really do think this guy has something. So PFF, if you guys pay for this service, you guys can get, all the premium stats on all the players. I don't know if it shows this regularly, but these are all the defensive grades for the edge. Chop Robinson is rated 7th, 90.8 overall on defense. Pass rush, 92.3. He's definitely someone that should be available right now at pick 29, unless something changes at the combine. 18 hurries on the season, 10 tackles, 3 assists. Missed tackle percentage is 7.1%. Can you guys see that, or is that way too small? Yeah, Chop's looking real good on paper. He actually looks really good on tape too, to be honest with you. But this one right here, James Pierce, I mean, he must not be coming out because I did not see him listed anywhere. Marshawn Nealand was another local guy. Western Michigan, that his tape looked terrible, but his grades look good. But then again, you're talking about Western Michigan. Braylon Trice was an interesting prospect to me. I wasn't overly excited about his tape just yet, and his tackling being a 49 overall is just terrible. I just wouldn't. I don't know that I'd want to take some risks on somebody like that, especially at pick 29. So he's got to be available later on. Robert Welch says, my TV is big. Are you the one that bought like the 85 incher or something like that? You went out and bought an 85 incher for the season? All right. I'll come back to all that stuff when I do some videos, but tonight I just wanted to jump on and talk about, what I was seeing in the draft. So if nobody else wants to call and go through a full draft again tonight, I'm going to go through one more and let's see if anything changes. And then we'll be done for tonight. We'll pump out some videos tomorrow. If you guys haven't had a chance, go out and check the AJ Epinesa video. Broke it down pretty good. I think he's the player that we get. I really do. He's the player that we need. All right, we're starting all over. Here we go. Latu will drop to the end of the first round. I'm not excited about Latu, and the reason why is because of his major neck injury. I am so afraid after seeing what happened to Levi, Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal. I mean, guys that were coming into the league that had known injury issues. Paschal was more of I think he had cancer underneath his foot and got through all of that. But then he started suffering, I think he had a lower back issue or the right leg issue or something. But guys that had a known issue in college with injuries translated to the NFL and it got worse. Like Levi, maybe he was always a project. Maybe Brad Holmes really reached big time. When he was healthy in his first season, I think that he started to play pretty well, but it was so short-lived. We really never got to see, what he was going to turn out to be. So here we go. Let's do this one last one together. And then I'm going to hang it up for the night. Yeah, so 1AA hole, Epinesa barely plays because he's a rotational player. He plays 38% of the snaps because he's in a rotation. That's exactly why I love him, because that means he's not as beat up as some of these other guys that are playing 70, 80, 85% of the game. If you bump up his rotation to 50, 55, 65%, and my whole theory there is if you go get two guys that equal 100%, you've got your depth, you've got your starter, they rotate. That means that you've got guys that are coming in that are, pretty equal as far as talent. Maybe one's a little bit different than the other. So, you got the speed ball that comes in and then you got the curve ball that comes in. So I like the ability to have, your depth and your starter taken care of by having a good rotation. And I think the Lions are looking for a good rotation. Like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes both said, but Brad Holmes said, everyone wanted us to get pairs on the ends, pairs on the inside, pairs on this, pairs on that. He kept saying the word pairs. And that's because in the NFL, the positions are pretty much pairs, 2 linebackers, 2 corners, 2 D ends, 2 D tackles. So you guys get 2 safeties. There's a lot of pairs, and a lot of teams do draft that way. They'll draft 2 pairs in the same draft, so that they solidify that one position for the next 4 and 5 seasons or 4 seasons. All right, so we started the draft, and right away, let's see who's gone in the defensive front. It doesn't look like Murphy was taken. Have you guys watched any tape on Murphy or Sweat? Because if you haven't, I would highly encourage you guys to go do it. He is available. He's ranked 30th, pick 29. I think you have to take it. I think you have to take Murphy. Let's go back and look at the cornerbacks real quick. I mean, I think everyone agrees that it's defensive front and cornerback that should be our first picks. TJ Tampa, he is a great pick. Like I said earlier tonight, go watch Kamal Hayden. Go watch his highlights. I think you guys will be intrigued by just how well this guy plays. And he's, smack dab in the middle of the draft, if not the tail, second half of the draft. Guy has some ability. He really does. But for this draft, we're going to start defensive front first because a lot of people know without a pass rush and without getting to the quarterback, we're going to struggle. Demigod says this is how the offseason will play out. The Lions are going to sign a quarterback and a defensive end, but they will surprise people by drafting a wide receiver at 29 and then draft another cornerback the second round, and then the third round, a guard, and then a strong safety. I don't know if I would be pissed at that or super pissed at that, but I don't think that I would want to see that happen, only because I think you're going to be able to get Brendan Rice later on in the third round, potentially, until he goes through the combine. But I hear you, because that's Brad Holmes, right? I mean, the guy's throwing curveballs left and right. All right, so now we're on to pick 61. Jeff Okuda's a free agent. Please no. Yeah, no. Please no. All right, so pick 61. Let's look at what we got going on here. We know we're not taking a tight end that early unless something crazy happens with Thompson or Johnson, whatever his name is, Theo Johnson. Let's go back and look at corner. There's Mike Sanistro, but after looking and reading at what we just, read with Draft Buzz and PFF, I think that we're all in agreement that you would pass on that, right? So Kalen Carson, I don't know much about him, but he's got good size. That's a good start. His man coverage grade is not the greatest at 61. So he's probably more of a zone coverage guy. Plays majority of his snaps as a corner, which is good. But he doesn't look to be a man press guy, more of a zone coverage. Good in the run defense, though, so it looks like he will mix it up. So for that reason, I would hold off on drafting a corner right here. Again, unless somebody like Renardo Green or, somebody else really moves up in this draft. DJ James, 6'1", 164 pounds. That's just way too skinny. Then you're not drafting a corner in the second round. And that's why I was afraid that if you don't move up and go get a corner, there's really nobody in the second or third round. Potentially the third round there is, but there's nobody in the second round. So if we're not taking a corner and we've already taken defensive line, let's look at the edge. Austin Booker, I went over that one earlier. I think he had some funny size to him. 6'6", 245. That's like a beanpole. Doesn't mean that he can't add weight, but that's just a little bit too small. Marshawn Nealand, I was not impressed by his tape at all. I don't know anything about Xavier Thomas yet or Justin Boygby. I don't know anything about those guys yet. And for that reason, I got to pass. But 6'2", 255, I would pass anyway. Justin, 6'5", 292. So he's got prototypical size. I just would need to learn more, but he's ranked at 133 and we're at pick 61. These rankings don't mean squat really, but just because it's the draft and they're ranked by PFF, I'll trust them for right now. Let's go to offensive side of the ball. We know that we need a center and we know that we need a guard. How do we get it all in one? Bo Lemer. Love this guy. 6'5", 307, prototypical size. Good gap grade. True pass set, pass blocking grade is terrible. So that's not good. Being able to play guard, though, right guard in 2022 and 2021, he spent 2 seasons playing right guard. He spent his last season playing center. So he could be a little bit of a project. And what I like about that is if Ragnow's back this year, you draft this guy that can play center. He learns behind Ragnow, but he can also fill in at right guard. That's why I like, him, and he'll be available in the next round. He's ranked 127 right now. We're at pick 61. You could probably get him, in between 92 and 163. So for that reason, I would probably try to trade back off of 92 to be able to take him. But I do like Cooper Beebe, and he's played left guard primarily, for his whole career, and a little bit of left tackle. And we're looking at replacing Jonah Jackson. Pretty good grades, 90.4 pass blocking grade, really good gap grade at 76. True pass set grade, 91. Guy's a monster, 6'4", 335. Here's what I don't have. I don't know how big his arms are. You guys know that I'm all about the arm length. And there's something to it. And everyone will tell you there's something to it at the next level. Is Lemer smart enough? I hope so. So Frank Ragnow went to Arkansas. And he's one of the smartest guys in the room. Frank the Tank, man. He's an extremely heady football player. So I like the, similarity that, he's another Razorback. That school usually breeds really good offensive linemen. Just kind of like Iowa does really well with tight ends. So that's why I would put him kind of on that, that list right away. But then you got to dig deeper. You've got to find, the right tape and then the combine. And then you got to get the guy in a room and you got to ask him the questions and, make him go through some scenarios. Interviews that we will never see. Cedric Van Pran was another interesting prospect. He does not have the greatest grades, though. When you look at it, they're not great. But pure center, not the greatest of grades. 6'4", 310. So he's a little bit light on weight. But that doesn't mean he can't play at 310. So Cooper Beebe is who I would be taking right now, but I think that that's a gross overreach for a guard that early. So let's look at tackle and somebody that can also play on the inside. And I always end up on Pooney. Funny name, but he played left guard last year, left tackle this year. So for that reason, it makes me feel very comfortable that Taylor Decker goes down, Pooney steps in. Penei Sewell goes down. Pooney can't step in. Who can play right guard? We don't have one. Or right tackle. We don't have one. But at left guard, he can step in for Jonah Jackson right now. It's an easier transition to guard than it is tackle. Get acclimated to the NFL, and then if something happens, he could move to left tackle, or Penei could move to left tackle if we had another right tackle. So I really like his ability. Pass block grade 90.5, true pass set 86.6. The run blocking, the zone grade, and the gap grade, I think that that's all going to be technique driven at the next level and learning what the Lions do at the next level. So right now I would take Pooney. He's ranked 68, but let's look at one more position. Defensive line. Do we need to double up on the defensive line? We could grab rookie probably at 73, potentially. I don't see Robinson, but Brandon Dorloose was also a pretty good prospect. Pass rush win rate's not the greatest. He is a little short at 6'3". So I think I'm going to play it safe here, and I'm going to go ahead and go with offensive line. All right. Pick 73. Who did we lose? Sainstro win at 63. So there's my guy, Brendan Rice. 6'3", 210. You guys are going to love this guy. I'm telling you, got to watch the tape tonight. As soon as you get off of this, go watch it. I promise you, you will love it, and I love it. So I'm taking him. That is not a mistake. That is a guy that is going to change the game. Another USC guy, an Amon-Ra type guy. And again, you want to stack the box. If, communication breaks down with Amon-Ra St. Brown, if negotiations don't go well, you got to have someone in the hopper. You got to have a guy ready to go. Josh Jackson says 6'3", 250 is good size when we're in a 3-4 look. I've never seen our guys in a 3-4. I guess I've seen us in a 3-2-6, but not in a 3-4. We run the 4-3 hybrid. Maybe you're thinking 3-4 because we got the safeties moved up or the extra cornerbacks moved in. Looks like a 3-4. Brian Bemis says Rice is the wideout I would covet if I were the Lions. Yeah, I do. I do covet Rice. He's got the last name of his father, who was an incredible wide receiver, Jerry. So I love it. I love the chemistry. He's got the blood of a Rice, and you don't pass up on those types of guys. But we got lucky. Cooper Beebe is still there. Micaiah Wingo is actually another great opportunity for this Lions team to double up on the defensive line. We're at pick 92. And let's take a look at tight end. We already know that Theo is going to be there. I'm not big on Cade Stover. Jay Mommy says it didn't hurt him enough to be one of the best in the NFL. His first year, he accomplished something that was only done twice before as a rookie. Hutchinson is one of the top edge players in football. Nice. Josh Jackson says, yep, you're right. You must have been talking about the 3-4 or whatever we were talking about there. Demigod says, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions already have him on their radar and he's magically still there in the second or third round. Wouldn't that be incredible? Josh Jackson, Von Miller came out 6'3", 245. Von Miller is a special athlete. Not all 6'3", 245s are the same. I'm not disagreeing with you, Josh, but not all 6'3", 245s are the same. Von Miller, man, he is a specimen. All right, so here we are, pick 92. And let's go back and recap here what we got. We got Byron Murphy. Guy's going to be a dog at the next level. And then we picked up Dominic Pooney, who's a tackle and a guard. And then Brendan Rice, wide receiver. So no corner, no safety. Yeah, Kamal Hayden's sitting back there at 173, and that's probably who I'm going to take at some point. I'm not real familiar with any of these guys right now, so I wouldn't trust taking them right now without watching their tape. Johnny Wilson is a very intriguing wide receiver, 6'7", 237. And the guy runs like a unicorn, man. He's actually pretty loose for that size. Let's take a look at Micaiah Wingo, 6'1", 295. So he's a little bit on the short side, more like an Aaron Donald, type size. He's got a low pass rush win rate, very low run stop rate, good competition. He only played in a handful of games last year, it looks like. He's a B gap guy, so if you guys remember, the Lions should be looking for a B gap guy. Is my theory here. Kalen King has a terrible man coverage grade, so I would pass on him. All right, who wants me to take what? Tyke Smith. What about Tyke, safety from Georgia? He's got pretty low grades here. It's 5'10", a little on the short side, but for a safety, that's okay. No, I'm not taking Blake Corum. We don't need a running back. So this is where I get stuck. I mean, you guys see what I'm talking about here? Like, who are you going to take out of this? If this was legit, who would you take here? Renardo Green. Let's see if he's there. No. You got Kyrie Jackson. He's not terrible. I'm telling you, I got to take Kamal Hayden. All right, so I'm going to have to stick with offensive line again because there's just not much happening here. So let me go back to guards and centers because that's what we really need. We got Cooper Beebe, Cedric Van Pran, Zach Zinter. I'm going to stay away from Zach only because of the leg. We got all the Michigan guys here. Hunter Norzad. I haven't heard of him yet. I haven't watched anything on him. So if we were going to take a tackle here or a center, someone needs to pick it for me. Take Beebe. All right, done. So this next pick is a tough pick for me because if Theo Johnson is there, I love to take him. And he is. But you know who else is going to be here? Let's see. Oh, Hayden looks like he's gone. Yep, someone got Hayden. He's gone. I would have taken him. See, I screwed myself. I think I have to take a tight end. Who has a better idea than that? I keep ending up with the same players. So who else do we have available? This is why I don't like this draft. I really don't. You have to be, extremely snipish in this draft. That's why I think Brad Holmes is going to have to move around. This Hayden Haddon down here, I did watch his tape. Very interesting guy. Very, very interesting guy. 6'2", 205, very late round. I can't wait to see if he's invited to the combine. Is Trey Taylor there? Let's take a look. What position? Trey Taylor, safety Air Force. He is there. He's at 208 though. But I have a feeling that if I don't take him now, he's probably going to be gone and I'm going to get a terrible grade. But he's got pretty good marks. 89 in coverage. Size 6 foot 210. So he's prototypical size. He can play up in the slot, up in the box, and deep. Idaho Vandal. Good player. Vandal. He didn't pop up, so he must be gone. No, I think you guys know my answer here. I'm going to have to take Theo. I'm right back where I was. And I think I would have to take Dylan McMahon only because he's a center. But let's go back and look at defensive line real quick. Edge. Steve Linton. Good pass rush grade. Really good pass rush grade. Terrible in run defense. Really good pass rush win rate. This guy, I haven't watched all of his tape yet. I watched one highlight. There wasn't much there. But I think I'm going to gamble on this guy. You can never have enough edge rushers. I just pulled him up. Vandal? When I typed him in, he didn't pop up. And then you guys know I'm ending with a kicker because we need a kicker. All right, so the reason why this live happened tonight, obviously it's Friday night off the cuff, but I just wanted to take everybody through a few draft scenarios, but talk about how it's a terrible draft in my opinion. It's really light past the second round. If you're looking for game changers and you need 2 of them or 3, you're going to have to get up into the top part of the draft. Top 15 if you want a corner. Top 25 if you want the best edge or defensive lineman that may not be the number 1 overall, but could be 2 or 3 overall. Combine is going to make a big difference for me to really dial this in. But there's plenty of players to highlight between now and the draft. And now in free agency, between now and free agency is when we're really going to start to see how the Lions are going to change. The rumors that start to come out, from the insiders until someday when I get my press pass, which I'll be applying for over the weekend, but by Monday, we'll have some more answers. So here we go. What do we get for a grade? A B-. Byron Murphy. I honestly feel he's a can't miss prospect for this defensive front. Dominic Pooney. He's a very, 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 very good versatile player. And I would agree with you, Brian, that the first 4 picks are better than the grades that I'm given. It's crazy you get a better grade after, but Brendan Rice, he's a game-changing wide receiver. He really is. And I have a video coming out. It's all cut up. I got all of his highlights in there, and I just got to type out the words and do a little voiceover. Cooper Beebe, again, versatile. Very versatile. Theo Johnson, I think he's someone that's going to break out. Steve Linton, I don't know enough on, but his one highlight that I watched was pretty darn good. But he's got really good size, and as you saw, his pass rushing ability, according to where he went to school and the teams that he faced, was really good. Run stopping, not the greatest. And then we need a kicker. We got to be able to trust in our kicker, but I don't think that changes Dan Campbell one bit, even if the guy can knock in 60-yarders all day. Demigod 313 says, Will, if Rice and the Penn State tight end are there at 29, you are taking them. No, I wouldn't, but I hear you. I just didn't. Who else am I going to take? If you're forced to take best player available, that's what I did. I took the best player available. I really did. I believe that. But I still have hundreds of hours of tape to go through, and that takes a lot of time. And we're running out of time because free agency is starting in 3.5 weeks ish, 4 weeks. So not a whole lot of time. And we got the combine here at the end of the month. So I appreciate y'all joining. 2-hour session tonight. Wow, I didn't even know it was 10:30. I know it's a little bit different than normal off the cuff. They all won't be like this, I promise. But I just wanted to kind of go through this. You guys blew up the chat. I really didn't get in the chat. We got one phone call tonight. You guys got to blow up the line. You got to get on the line. You got to tell me what you think, because what you guys think is more important than what I think. And the phone line is here for you guys. So appreciate y'all. You guys have been great. As always, go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. There I am. Forgot to take that off the screen. Go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. You guys take care. Bye-bye.